Welcome back, everybody, to This Is Reviewable for another episode. Episode 46 today. And even though we said we were
Wait,
out...
I had an intro idea.
Okay.
Call me a liar. Call this reviewable. Because we're not done with spooky season. We watched A Haunting in Venice.
Okay.
You hated it, didn't you?
I didn't love it.
Wait, sorry.
So spooky season, I guess, lives on in our hearts, and also literally, because we watched a scary, scary movie. So scary. But in our defense, it was Halloween.
Yeah.
And this episode is releasing, obviously, after Halloween. This is just how everything shook out. Anyways, what is A Haunting in Venice about?
Okay, so this is movie 3 in like a loose trilogy, I guess.
No, it's 100% a trilogy.
Yeah, I guess it's just...
Our cat Bari is making her first guest appearance.
This is not her first guest appearance.
If you hear rummagings and little sounds of paws on blanket and maybe purrs, that's her.
So the first movie in this trilogy so far, is Murder on the Orient Express. Movie number 2.
Oh, I see what you did there. You left it open for potential sequels. You sly fox. Just like the movie did. That was useless. Go ahead.
Movie number 2, Death on the Nile. Movie number 3, which is the one that we just watched, A Haunting in Venice.
But it's only a trilogy because it is always Hercule Poirot.
That's why I said it was only a kind of trilogy.
Right. Yeah, because you can watch any of these in any order,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter.
So this movie is about Detective Poirot, who is a detective. At this point, he's claiming to be retired, and he's living in Venice. His bodyguard comes and talks to him in the morning one time when he's having breakfast and says, "Someone's here to see you. They said they're an old friend, and they have something that they want to talk to you about." So Tina Fey's character, her name is Ariadne Oliver, I think, and she's an author who writes basically, I think, like murder mystery books. And
I think she's a stand-in for Agatha Christie herself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a very loose, from what I read online, a very loose adaptation from Agatha Christie's Halloween.
Yeah, except
Party?
there's an apostrophe in between the two E's for some reason.
Yeah.
Halloween Party is what the book is called.
Yeah. Ariadne comes and says, there is this house that's haunted. This girl was murdered or died there last year, and they're going to have a seance tonight. And it's Halloween. So they show up to the house, and the mom of the girl who died, her name is Rowena, and she invited a medium. That's what they're called, right? And I don't know, we couldn't really tell what. There was a bunch of people there, and I'm sure we'll get into all the other people that were there later on. But this movie is about trying to figure out what happened to the daughter, because they're trying to talk to the daughter that died the previous year through the medium. And then a few different people die throughout the movie, and we're trying to figure out basically who done it. Right?
Well, Tina Fey invited Hercule because she wants him to try and disprove this psychic, because Ariadne believes that she's a real psychic. And anyway, that's the pretense she uses to get Hercule to come to the party in the first place. Disprove this guy. Bring your bodyguard. Bring your bodyguard, Mr. Italiano, with you. And he does.
Yeah.
Well,
is that a good synopsis of the movie?
Yeah, I guess.
There's just a lot of moving parts in this movie, I would say, and it's hard to cover it in just a very quick synopsis.
This is a spooky movie, but it's a PG-13 spooky movie.
It's just like a murder mystery.
And it's a murder mystery, but it's a little spooky too. All right.
Yeah, I guess because of like ghosts and stuff like that.
Let's just talk about what we liked first.
Okay.
I have a little list. I wrote most of the performances are okay, and I used that word okay on purpose. I didn't love Tina Fey.
Yeah.
She's just kind of like, oh, well, there you go, bucko. Oh,
yeah, because this is set in 1947. It's a couple years after World War II.
Yeah.
And she, at times, really plays up the Yank.
Yeah.
In her. And other times, she's just a normal person. When she really plays up the yank, it's super annoying, I would say. Because it's just stereotypical.
I heard someone say I watched a video of someone complaining about the Civil War, actually, the movie. Um,
The
the one that came
Marvel
out this
one?
year.
Oh.
No. And they were complaining that they used Nick Offerman as the president, Ron Swanson.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, no one sees Nick Offerman as a president. Bad casting. And I was like, I disagree with that. I think that's stupid to limit actors and assume that they can't do a range of things. Um, so I disagreed with that take until I saw Tina Fey trying to play a serious journalist, and I was like, yeah, I kind of just see her as Liz Lemon from 30 Rock, or any of her characters on SNL when she was on SNL. Maybe I just haven't seen the right Tina Fey performance, but I didn't love her. Besides her, everybody else is okay. I don't think anyone's special.
Well, because I think for the most part, she's only played really comedians.
Yeah, funny
Or yeah,
characters. But like you
and
can,
and not that, like you were saying, not that like because that's all she's done for the most part, that's all she's allowed to do. But I almost felt like there were times where she's acting serious, and like when you're trying to be serious, like in a very serious situation, and it's just funny.
yeah.
I almost felt like that's what it was.
Yeah, I just don't think she's very good as a dramatic actor, at least in this movie, because Jim Carrey did basically only comedy, and then he did the Truman Show, and the Truman Show, he's very good and
Mm-hmm.
very believable. I don't know, just Tina Fey wasn't great. Everyone else, like I said, is okay. I heard some people talking about how great they thought Michelle Yeoh was, who's the medium. She's fine. Her little possession thing was like not
Spooky, but not.
it's not super impressive like
No.
some people seem to think, in my opinion at least. And then I do like Mr. Italiano, the guy that plays he plays Santino in John Wick 2. I just like him. I like his presence. I think he's in that chef movie also with Bradley Cooper, Burnt. Yeah, he's in that too. I wish he was in more stuff. I really like him. I like his voice and his
That's his name. Or is that his name in real life?
Ricardo
That's his name in real life.
Ricardo Scamarcio. Okay. Yeah, so he's good. Kenneth Branagh is good as Hercule Poirot.
Mm-hmm.
Beth Dutton. I don't know her actress's name.
Kelly Riley.
Kelly Riley. She's good. She's good. And I thought the whole Beth Dutton thing was going to bother me, but it didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it.
I
She's
will
good.
say something that was so weird in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this basically abandoned house. Rowena is the owner of the house, and she hasn't lived there, and the house is basically empty. They make a point of saying that the house is pretty much empty. She changes her dress twice, and they never mention it. And for what purpose? It's all happening within a couple hours.
There's not a purpose. They never address that.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
they don't. Anyways, and then there's also Jamie Dornan, who is
He plays 50 Shades of Grey.
yeah, he's in 50 yeah. He's in 50 Shades of Grey. He's an anthropoid. He's good too. He's fine, There's nothing special going on with any of these
Yeah.
performances in my opinion. They're all just
The boy in this movie does a good job.
and the American. I actually kind of liked the American the best performance wise. The douchebag ex fiance.
Maxine.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's a positive. It's a sort of lukewarm positive, but it's definitely not a negative. I think the main thing that this movie has going for it is how well shot it is.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it looks really good.
We watched this with friends, and at one point someone was like, "Is this movie shot in 0.5?" And I was like, "Honestly, I kind of agree."
Well, it's supposed to feel claustrophobic when he
But
thinks that
there's
he's seeing ghosts.
a
And
lot of different moments where I'm like, I don't love that angle. What was the point of that?
you're thinking of the Dutch angle where it's tilted.
Just and there were points where
See, I like that. I like that stuff.
Ariadne and Perot were talking to each other, and it's totally zoomed in on just their face, where you can see all of their pores and all of that, and I didn't like that.
I disagree. I think this movie looks good. I think it's shot very well and effectively. It adds to the uneasiness the way that it was, those close-ups and those zooms. It makes it feel claustrophobic, and the Dutch angle makes you feel off kilter, which is how Hercule is feeling also. I thought it was good. I thought it was shot well, but I guess we just disagree about that, huh?
That's fine.
I do like the spooky setting. Venice is an old, creaky place, I wrote.
An old creaky place.
Venice is an old, creaky place, and then and on Halloween, I'm liking all that. I like that. I like the creepy people rowing the boats and they're wearing hoods and masks because it's Halloween. The one thing I'll say is, in my experience, Italians don't care that much about Halloween. Let me see. I was actually only in Italy for one Halloween, and I was in Sicily, which you would imagine, like, Venice would be the place where they would celebrate it because they like to dress up anyways in Venice. That's a thing. So maybe it's different in Venice, but in Sicily, which is like the other place I would assume people would like Halloween more, or maybe
Where?
Napoli, Sicily or
Oh.
Napoli. But in Sicily, like, there was a group of kids that were charging around the city that had their faces made up and all that. But basically, you could only trick or treat at the shops because everywhere in Italy that people live in palazzos,
Yeah,
palazzi,
apartments and stuff.
yeah, big apart. That would be really difficult to do trick or treating in. So in my experience, like, Halloween is not as celebrated as this movie makes it seem. But
Yeah.
I'm totally nitpicking, and also this was right after World War II, so it's,
There's a lot of American influence going on.
yeah, so it's totally possible.
That's fair.
But I like the setting, is what I'm getting at the end of this. It's spooky, it's fun, colorful, vibrant Venice.
What I read online is people were upset that they set this in Venice and had like a total of like 2 minutes of footage of outside of the apartment.
Yeah,
But also the apartment was so huge
yeah,
and so cool. But I didn't really mind. I don't know.
yeah. I do like the mist. I like it when they cut to outside and it's just dumping rain, and the
Yeah.
wind is like making the shutters fly all over the place.
Oh yeah, that's another thing is they can't leave this apartment because of spooky things that are going on. But also,
There's a
while they're trying to
storm.
figure it out, there's a huge storm, and so the police can't come because
It's dangerous.
it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. Do you have any other positives you want to talk about before we get into what we don't like?
I can't think of any right now, except that like I think that the color grading on this movie was good.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm saying. I think it looks really crisp and nice.
That's different though. It has to just mostly do with colors.
Okay.
Like it looks like Halloween. Like it's very warm but spooky lighting.
It doesn't feel warm to me.
No, like yellow and
Oh, I see.
orange colors
Oh, okay.
lighting.
Yeah.
But it feels spooky and all of that.
Yeah, it does.
And
Yeah.
like while a lot of this is in an old building, I appreciate that they didn't keep everything super dark. You know how some movies
Yeah.
everything is just in shadow and you can't see anything. Like the CW, everything that they film
Oh,
is way too dark.
okay.
This movie didn't do that, and I appreciated that.
So you're glad it doesn't look like a CW show.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the bare minimum I think we can come to expect. But you're right.
Okay, let's move on to what we don't like.
My main problem with this is the story. It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wrote here. I don't know WTF is going on here. That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
Because it jumps around, and like, after we watched this, granted we did watch it with people and
So we didn't get-
and a lot of people.
Yeah.
So there was noise. We weren't totally focused in on it.
Everybody else was except for you.
No, I was focused in on it for
You were
most of it.
yapping.
At the very beginning, yes, but not for most of it. But anyways, we didn't totally focus on this like we did The Machinist, for example.
Yeah. And if we had watched this by ourselves, there would have been moments where we would have paused it to try and talk about it
Maybe.
throughout the movie, I think.
Yeah.
But I will say we did talk about this movie for like an hour
Afterwards,
we were trying to figure out what happened.
We were trying. Yeah, we were like, and we were stumped every like minute. We were like, why did the writer get invited to the seance?
And that's never explained.
It might be, but it's very brief if it is.
Yeah.
And then we're like, and why did the ex-fiance get invited, and by who, and why did this person invite them? And then, okay, but then, so what was the media? Like, we were just trying to figure out everybody's motive and just generally what happened and why it happened. And it was really difficult.
Yeah.
And even reading summaries, I've read probably 5 summaries of this movie
I read at least 2
over the course of this last 24 hours before recording, trying to find the answers to specific questions, and
and they're not out there.
I cannot find the answers.
Yeah.
And then I type in the questions specifically, and I'm looking through subreddits and just like
Yeah, nobody's talking about the same
I
things.
can't find the goddamn answers I want.
Yeah.
And like maybe I should have asked ChatGPT. I probably should have.
Actually, that
That would have been a good idea. But like I think that's a testament to how confusing this movie is, and
Yeah.
just like how like the main plot beats are not confusing as such. Like
there's just certain events that we will be talking about in spoilers because I don't want to. This movie is a murder mystery. I don't know, and it's a decently made Halloween movie.
Yeah.
It's like I would recommend it with the caveat
that it sucks.
Pay attention, and if you find out some of these things, let us know. But there's certain things that we will be covering in spoilers that we just can't talk about here. But just know that we really try to do our research on this movie afterwards.
And we kept saying we'll probably have to watch it again, but
neither of us want to.
In the act of saying that, I just felt deflated.
Yeah.
I was just like, we probably need to watch it again. I'm not going to. It's just not good enough.
The only time I ever would be like on a plane. And that's like as a last resort if there's nothing else to watch,
I'd rather sleep.
Really?
Yes, on the plane. I'd rather sleep than watch this movie again.
Interesting.
It's just so bang average. It's not even bad.
It's definitely, of like the 3, it's definitely the worst one.
You think so?
Did you watch Death on the Nile?
I've only ever seen Murder on the Orient Express.
That one was good.
I remember liking it, but like watching this now makes me question everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Maybe if I went back, I wouldn't like it. Who knows? But like that's my main gripe is the story. And unfortunately, in a murder mystery where story and twist is everything, if that's not working, then the movie's just not working.
Yeah.
And for me, this movie did not work. And the ending is so unsatisfying for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's so unsatisfying to me.
Really?
Yes. There's just something about... Yeah, we've already admitted it's a murder mystery, right? There's something so lame about who the murderer ends up being.
Oh, really? I kind of thought that was interesting. Really? I don't love the way that the reveal happened, but... Okay, let's go through all the things that we didn't like so then we can get to spoilers, because that's really what we need to talk about. That's the main thing.
It's the freaking... there's some funny moments, actually. There's a very tongue-in-cheek moment where Hercule
just call him Perot.
Where he says, I'm just going to call him Kenneth Branagh.
No, call him Perot.
Where Perot says, I examined the clues, I created the list, and I figure out who done it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that wink at the camera sort of thing. There's a lot of that. And when the movie's funny, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like I like the jokes. The jokes are landing for me. I think it's effectively thrillery when it is thrillery. When it does those sort of like little jump scares and cuts and
yeah. I guess there are a couple of little jump scares.
Yeah.
But they're not that.
There's not so many that it's obnoxious, and then when they happen, like they're fine. I don't think the jump scares specifically are not that good. Actually,
yeah.
I'm taking it back. They're not that good. They don't scare me that much. And then, but like Hercule feeling like his mind is kind of unraveling because he's hearing voices, and this is supposed to be a haunted palazzo.
I think was handled really well.
Yes, I liked that. So that like most of what is supposed to be spooky works decently. It's just that when you put all of this together and you try and sort out everyone's motives, and you will have questions naturally at the end of a murder mystery or a thriller. When you start asking those questions, and the more and more of them that go unanswered, the more you're like, well, this movie just wasn't it.
Well, and I think what's so frustrating to me is, let's just say there were 5 major questions that we had at the end of this movie. There's probably more, but let's just say it's 5.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up each one that night, could not find any answers.
Yeah.
Online. Which is also really frustrating because there's no way that we're the only ones having these questions.
Yeah. And like
I'm not saying oh, everyone else needs to do their research for me, but also how is there no answers on Reddit? I even looked up plot holes in this movie, and I found one article that was let's just say 4 paragraphs long, said absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Clickbait at its finest.
And the answers that you do find, especially for character motives, and I'm thinking specifically the motives that the Agatha Christie stand-in has. What's her name? Ariadne. When they just feel contrived. They feel like an excuse for her character to be there, and I don't love them. I just don't love the setup. I don't really buy it.
An excuse that they just half-assed.
And comparing that to The Machinist, which we just watched, when you get the twist at the end of that movie, it enriches everything you've seen before, and all of the hints that were left, and the clues that the director gave you. That twist and that ending enriched and answered pretty much all of my questions the more I thought about it, in a way that was satisfying. In this one, yes, the twist answers questions, but not in a satisfying way.
Let's just get into spoilers.
Yeah, okay.
So the rest
we gotta rate it though.
Oh, shit.
So I'm
Parents Guide really fast. This is rated PG-13. There are some scenes of violence, quote unquote. It's not bloody. There's no blood in this movie at all.
Yeah.
There's
violence is a little disturbing at points, I'll say though.
Yeah. But like I said, there's no blood.
Mm-hmm.
Language.
I don't think so.
I don't think there's any language. On the thriller side, there's a couple of moments where you're like, ooh, that's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Some of the people we watched this with were like, oh, I don't like that. Personally, it was a bit overdone. So I'm like, nah.
You weren't that scared.
No, I wasn't.
But we've watched scarier stuff this season.
Yeah.
Honestly,
on the scary scale, I would say this is a 3.
Honestly, Night of the Hunter is scarier than this.
Yeah.
Even with how
old it is.
Yeah. Anyways, good Parents Guide. I'm gonna rate it now. I think this is geez, dude. I want to give it points because I think it's well shot and it's well directed, and Kenneth Branagh did a good job with that aspect of it. But the main crux of a whodunit is the story. If the story doesn't work, then the movie doesn't work. I've already said that, but I think this is a 5.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Silly mustaches.
I think it wasn't the mustache that bugged me. It was the soul patch. The soul patch looks so stupid.
Oh, none of it bugged me. It's just it's just a silly mustache.
Okay. I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. Yeah. I know I said I would maybe watch this on a plane, but there's more things that I would rather watch. And I just don't think I care about this enough to even try and give it a better score. I'm going to rate this a 4 wildflower honeys out of 10.
Okay.
So, spoilers ahead.
Oh, here's a major issue I have. And this wouldn't actually have been that bad of a spoiler. So, if you've left because you're just burning up with desire to see this movie and you didn't want to hear us spoil it, I'm sorry that I didn't say this earlier. But this is a problem that I have with the Sherlock show, the BBC show, also, in how they depict detective work and deduction and being like a brilliant genius detective. And I went back because I just wanted to get one example to give you guys, one concrete example of what specifically I don't like about how detective work is portrayed in Sherlock and in this. And I went back and rewatched the scene to make sure I was right about this.
From this movie.
Yeah, so this is confirmed. At the very beginning, we know that Poirot is trying to discredit this psychic. And they go into the dead girl's old room, and they have the seance, and Michelle Yeoh, the medium, is doing this thing where she twitches her finger, and then
Joyce. That's her
Yeah,
name.
Joyce. There's a typewriter, and like the key gets clicked even though no one touched it. So like it's a little magic trick basically. Well, how'd she do that?
Yeah.
If she's not real? And Hercule is pacing around the room in a circle, circling the room, right? Looking for clues to figure out how she's doing all this. And then at one point he stops it and he's like, "No, no. Let us meet this other assistant who is hiding in the chimney." And then he like reaches into the chimney and grabs this guy and pulls him down.
This is a good example.
And he's like, "No, no one has entered the room, but I saw his footprint in
The soot or the ash.
in the ash in the fireplace, and that's how I knew he was there." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be clever if you showed the audience the soot,
yeah.
and we could have made that deduction ourselves or remembered it. But like, you're giving Hercule information that the audience doesn't have, and using that as evidence that he's a genius and he's this really smart detective. And that sort of thing happens a ton in this movie. They give him information and he deduces information that like the audience would have had no chance to deduce because
we weren't given it.
They don't see what he sees.
Yeah.
He sees this stuff off screen. He has these realizations off screen. And there's so much of that going on here. Yeah. And that's like, and that happens a lot in Sherlock too. It's lazy.
It's not fun for the viewer. Because it's fun, especially in like a whodunit. You're also trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And if they don't give you any clues, why am I watching this movie? Because it's not enjoyable. Like it's fun to try and figure out who done it.
Right. I know this isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison, but an example that's often given is there's a episode in Game of Thrones where Tyrion is the Hand of the King, and he has 3 people that he is confiding in. I can't remember. One of them is Littlefinger. One of them is Varys, the bald guy, the eunuch. Mm. And then there's another guy, and he doesn't know which one of them is stabbing him in the back and telling secrets to people that I think Cersei. He doesn't know which one of them is talking to Cersei. And so
he gives them all different information.
Yes, what he does is he tells them all a different plan, and then you're like, "Oh." And you start to figure out why he's doing that, and you have all the information he has. You see exactly what he does, so you can come to the conclusion of how he's going to weed out this traitor before it actually happens on screen, and that's satisfying to go on that journey with him. But in a movie like this is how it would have played out. He would have confronted the traitor at the end and said, "I told everybody 3 separate stories, and then you told Cersei the story that I told you." But we would have never seen him telling the story individually to all 3 people
until at the end,
until that very moment, and then he would have dumped all that information on us. That's what this movie does, which is the wrong way to do it in my opinion.
Yeah. The thing that comes to mind is Psych. I don't love Psych. I don't even really like it anymore.
Really?
But they
I like Psych.
Do a good job of giving you fragments of information.
Yeah.
That, Sean saw this? Okay, so then we're remembering that Sean saw this and he's been thinking about it and he brought it up a couple times.
Yeah.
And now it's the reveal.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it, you know? A mystery or whatever. One specific moment that was so confusing. So we find out that Poirot was drugged.
Mm-hmm. Which I called, by the way.
Brendan. But it's confusing because he's the only one that's drugged. Did you watch this part? Did you rewatch it today?
No, I didn't. Yeah. Okay. This is another question
that
we have.
So, again, this is basically an abandoned house. There's nothing here. Something happens. I can't remember what happens. They're all in a room, and the maid, the housekeeper, comes in with a cup of tea and says, "Oh, I found this, and some honey, like, in the cupboard or whatever." And for some reason, there's only 1 cup of tea for 10 people, and Poirot is the only one that drinks it.
Did they give it to him after he drowned, maybe? Or was that the attempted drowning? Maybe that's what it was. Okay. That would make sense why they wouldn't offer it to anyone else at that point.
I guess that makes more sense.
But, like, I mean, there's more issues, though. So
no, that's just one that that you say that makes more sense why they would have done it that way.
So this tea is made from some sort, it's called mad honey. The honey that they're putting in this tea, and it's toxic to humans and it causes hallucinations.
If given in small doses.
Yeah. and can be fatal if given in too large of a dose. But like, there's other things that happen, like when Perot is tripping balls, he asks Maxime, the ex-fiance, for his invitation and takes a look at it, and
it's on very basic cardstock. It's typewritten, and he's like, "Oh, that's weird. There's no identifying features."
And then he identifies the letters APPL, and it's APPLE, and it's not even like it's the first letter of every word. It's just he sees the word apple pop out to him for no other reason than
he's on drugs, I guess.
This is supposed to be how he figures out that the author is the one that invited Maxime to the party, Ariadne.
To cause drama.
Right, because her thing is apples, whatever. She has a thing for apples. It's just stupid. Like, why that? Why did you see apple in that card? And why is that what triggered the
realization
like
what triggered that hallucination?
Huh?
Yeah.
And then he deduces that she has been working with Mr. Italiano,
the bodyguard.
And for what reason, God knows. But I mean, I looked it up and I saw that the reason that Mr. Italiano wanted to be involved in this whole thing is he used to be a cop. He was the officer that found the girl in the canal dead.
Alicia.
Helped fish her out. He was the officer on duty, and this said that he felt unresolved about the case and he wanted closure. But they make a point of later in the movie saying that the murderer was able to get away with it because of the superstition of the Italian police and how they would just buy anything. So like, we're not really ever shown that he was conflicted about how that case resolved. We're just told it, I guess, by Perot.
I guess maybe this is what people were talking about when they said that there was no character development.
Yes.
I guess
and
like that.
It's hard to do when you're doing a thriller that needs to move at a certain pace and needs to not be 3 hours long, and you need to move from beat to beat to beat. But if your story isn't tight enough then you need to make it longer. You need to make it longer, or you need to trim stuff out, or you need to just make a different story.
Because this movie is only an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long. I'll give it that. It doesn't drag. And then there's another thing that I find stupid, where it's when Beth Dutton is the murderer, by the way, big spoiler.
Rowena.
Yeah, she didn't want her daughter to marry the
she didn't want her daughter to move on.
Yeah, the guy, so she was jealous, and so she forced a wedge between them. The guy broke up with the girl, tries to get back with the girl, but then Rowena starts feeding her daughter the mad honey.
So she's having
so that she will be totally reliant on the mother and not in her right mind, and she'll reject Maxime when he comes back, and then it leads to an accidental overdose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after the accidental overdose happens, Rowena stages the scene basically to make it look like the girl went crazy. The daughter went crazy. Was possessed by the ghosts of the children that live in the palazzo and jumped out of the window. Here's the thing, though. I couldn't come to a satisfying conclusion about why Rowena would have invited the psychic. The only thing that I can think of is she really believed she was a psychic, and she wanted to speak with her daughter for some reason because she felt guilty, right?
I think because maybe she missed her.
Okay, so she's psycho. She missed her. But she believes that this lady is a psychic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she believes that she could be exposed potentially for what she did, all right? And you could say at this point, well, maybe she has a guilty conscience. Maybe she wants to be caught. But no, she definitely does not want to be caught, because she commits 2 other murders during the course of this movie to cover her tracks. So why, in the perfect hell, is she inviting this psychic who could expose her, potentially? And why, in the perfect hell, is she allowing so many witnesses to be around if she really does want to talk through this psychic to her daughter? It doesn't make any sense. It's just contrived.
Right. that one I can explain away to myself that she's crazy and she just misses her daughter, whatever. The person that I don't understand really why they're there at all is the doctor and the son. Why is he there?
I think he just is hanging around her because he's in love with Rowena, I guess.
Okay, but that doesn't sound like a good enough reason to me.
Yeah, and none of this sounds like a good enough reason.
No.
And the Agatha Christie character, the reason she wants to be there,
Tina Fey.
yeah, Tina Fey, she believes that the psychic is real also, and she also considers there's a line where she says, "I'm the smartest person I know, and I can't figure out how she's doing this trick." So she believes that because she can't figure out why this how this medium is pulling off the trick, that this professional, renowned, famous detective can't do it either. And so her whole plan is to invite Perot to this séance, believing that he won't be able to solve it, and this is going to give her the idea for a new book that she's going to write. It sounds like you've already thought of all this already. Why don't you just use your imagination a little bit more and write the book from home? Why do you need to come to this party? Like, it doesn't, it's so just hoop jumpy.
Yeah.
You got to bend your mind in half and then in half hot dog style and then hamburger style and then keep doing it and then make little cuts out of it and then create a little snowflake out of your mind in order to buy what's going on in this movie if you think about it for more than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole, like, Rowena is able to convince Jamie Dornan to kill himself.
The doctor.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so stupid the way that he killed himself. He backed into a knife on purpose?
Right.
Why did he...
Well, yeah, when we saw that, I was like, okay, maybe she told him to stab himself in the back. But no, she didn't. That's just how he chose to kill himself. Like,
Yeah.
And earlier in the movie, he had said that he
tried, when he was at the end of the war, or in the war, when he was a medic, he tried to kill himself. He shot himself in the chest.
Yeah. And
lived?
And the bullet didn't do it. And so he decides when he's going to kill himself, I'm going to take the even riskier path than shooting myself in the chest and stab myself in the back with this knife. Hopefully it'll go through a major artery or something and kill me quickly, but I don't know. Anyways, let's roll the dice and do this. It's just like goofy.
Yeah.
It's a goofy movie. This is the real goofy movie.
Except that movie's actually good.
Yeah. That freaking... Did I tell you about that Atlanta episode where it's like a fake documentary that's so convincing about how the Goofy movie is the blackest movie of all time?
I kind of remember you saying that, yeah.
That's a crazy episode. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other nitpicks you want to do? Because I'm sure there's more.
Doesn't really make any sense. And I also have beef with the ending.
Uh-huh.
About how Perot lives in Venice and he has a bodyguard because he has all these fans that need help with their own life and stuff like that. And they wait outside his house, and anytime he leaves his house, they're like, Pro, we need help, or whatever. This guy has been, for however long, just waiting outside of Pro's apartment. And, after this case, the haunting, whatever, Perot decides, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to come out of retirement. Immediately knows what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, solves his case as they walk upstairs.
Yeah.
I turned to my friend because Perot is making some very serious accusations about this guy's family as they're walking upstairs. And I was like, those are some very reckless and dangerous accusations to be making if you're not totally sure about what you're saying. But it's just another one of those examples of them trying to make Perot look like a smart character without actually writing a smart scenario to show it.
Yeah. I'm ready to move on, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, I read a book this week. I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because again, spooky season wasn't over for us this week.
By Robert Loius Stevenson?
Yes. Who also wrote
Treasure
Island. And he also wrote Kidnapped, which my family likes. So if you don't know the story of this, pretty much Dr. Jekyll is good. He has all these friends. He's a doctor. He is a millionaire, pretty much.
And he lives in London.
Yeah. and there's this guy, Mr. Hyde, who is bad. He kills someone at some point, and there's a few different interactions that the main character, what's his name?
Is it an inspector?
No, Utterson, I think. He's a lawyer.
Don't you mean a
solicitor?
Yeah, thank you. Please use period and locale accurate terms.
So Utterson and Jekyll are friends, and Utterson has written
Henry Jekyll. I'm just being annoying at this point.
Okay. Utterson has written and holds on to Jekyll's will, which in the will says that if Jekyll goes missing for 3 months, everything goes to Mr. Hyde. And Utterson is like, why is this in here? That's so stupid. This is not a good... I mean, I don't even know who this person is, and we've known each other since university, you know?
This is a bad program, buddy.
Yeah. And Jekyll is like, oh, don't worry about it. Utterson has a cousin that they go on, like, Sunday walks throughout town, and his cousin at some point is like, oh, do you see that door over there? I met this guy that was super rude. He, like, ran into this little girl and, like, just kept going, and, like, me and this other guy had to stop him and say, hey, man, you know, what you did was bad. You need to pay reparations or whatever. And we walked up to this door, and his name was Mr. Hyde, and he got money from in there and went and cashed it. And Utterson is like, that door right there? Come to find out, it's Jekyll's door.
Yeah.
It's Jekyll's house. And he's like, wow, who is this guy? So Utterson is trying to figure out, basically, what's going on. Who is this guy, and why is Jekyll...
leaving him his money?
Right. Millions. In 18 whatever. They never actually specify the year. This book is a really easy read. I think it's like the audio is only 3 hours long. That's interesting.
Yeah.
For however old it is, you know, it's sometimes I struggle with some of those old ones just because they have very flowery language that I'm just like, okay, just get to the point. This book is very to the point. If you don't know the story, read this or whatever, but spoilers, you know. So it turns out that Dr. Jekyll made himself a potion or something where he can separate his psyche pretty much. So he has a good half, Dr. Jekyll, and he has a bad half, Mr. Hyde. And it's physically altering in his body when he takes this or when the change happens. So Dr. Jekyll is a very handsome, tall, well-built guy. Mr. Hyde is short, hunched over, ugly. At some point, the cousin of Utterson is like, I can picture exactly what this guy looks like, but I can't tell you what he looks like because it was so scary, ugly, dark, pretty much. And so Dr. Jekyll, I don't remember why he did this, except that he wanted to be a good person, and he wanted these to be separate.
Why did he even want to take this in the...
Maybe it was just an experiment because he's a doctor. We all know that olden day doctors were whack. I mean, let's look at Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Just, you know, books and stuff like that. And at some point, when Mr. Hyde is in charge, Jekyll always kind of knows what's happening. He's kind of aware what's going on, but he has no control over what Hyde does. And he looks down while he's Hyde at some point, and he sees Hyde's arms are super muscly, and it seems like he's getting stronger. And so the assumption is he's being Hyde too much, and Hyde is taking over them. And so he tries to distance himself from his bad side and tries to be happy and have a social life and hang out with his friends for a couple months.
Are you spoiling the whole book right now?
I said spoilers.
Oh, okay.
And Utterson reads all of this in a letter, and I think Jekyll died, but can't remember. It was a good book. I liked it. Like I said, it's super easy to get through. I listened to it in a day.
Yeah. You gonna rate it?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to rate this in 8.5 London towns out of 10. And the reason it's not more than that is because Utterson, I think, does a really good job of trying to figure out what's going on. And then the whole thing is just told to him in a letter, which I didn't love.
Okay, yeah. Explained away at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Done?
Yeah.
I watched Fargo season 1. This has been on my list for a very long time. I have seen the original movie, upon which this series is based, and I like the movie. I've always heard that Fargo is amazing, and I was like skeptical. I think for a very long time, like how could it really be good? Because like what have you ever watched Watch Mojo?
No.
That YouTube channel. They basically like rank things. That's their thing. They rank a lot of things. And I remember one of their videos, they were like ranking the best television shows of the last decade or whatever. And Fargo was like pretty high up on the list. And I was like, there's no way it's that good. This show about this show that's based on the Coen brothers movie, like it's not there's no way it's one of the top 5 shows in the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
This was very good. Very, very good indeed. And how can I even explain what this is about without spoiling things? If you've seen the movie, it captures the spirit of the movie very, very well. That sort of Minnesota nice, but under the surface, there's very like dark and violent things that happen as the story goes on, and it's juxtaposed with this like absurd politeness everyone has. It takes place in a very frozen, wintry sort of hellscape. So it captures the spirit of the book very well. And yeah, it's real good. Yeah. You've got Bilbo Baggins. What's that guy's name? Martin Freeman. He's also Watson from the Sherlock show. Watson from the Sherlock show. He plays the main character, Lester Nygaard. And besides him, you have a police detective. I think she's just a cop, but she's sort of trying to figure out. There's a thing that happens, and I'm not going to say what happens because that's a big spoiler. But it's a big thing that happens in the first episode, right, Micah?
Yeah.
Very big thing.
Well, very out of character for the time.
Yes. And it leads to some deaths, let's say. And
It's a huge snowball effect.
yeah, and this cop, this woman Molly, is earnestly trying to figure out what went down, and she seems like she's the only competent cop
Mm-hmm.
that is able to figure out or start to piece together clues to get to the bottom of what actually happened.
Well, and like unfeeling or
Yeah, she's not. Yeah, she's not
she's
letting.
dealing with the facts because it seems like a lot of the other officers in the precinct. It's a small town. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah,
No.
they're letting relationships cloud their
Yeah.
judgment. Also on the side, so you've got Lester, you've got her, you've got another cop from Duluth who ends up being a major player in the story also. But then you've got this guy named Lorne Malvo, played by Billy Bob Thornton, and he is the villain of this series, this first season, and he's one of the best television villains I've ever seen. He is really great at playing this wolf in sheep's clothing is what I'll call him. And that is, I think, a very apt description in more than one way. And if you watch the season, you'll know what I mean. And if you don't know what I mean, reach out to me and we can talk about it. We can talk about my theories on what this villain represents. But excellent. Really, really good. I will say that this series kind of won me and lost me and then won me back again. It won me basically immediately. I was hooked from episode 1 with what happens at the end of episode 1. And then with Lorne Malvo, just like the way that Billy Bob Thornton carries himself, he's just very calm and like spooky and just soft spoken, but like clearly a menace, right? And he just plays that super well. There's something that happens. I just got to talk about it. I'm not gonna.
Do you want to rate it and then spoilers or?
Sure, I'll rate it real quick. Okay, this first season is like a 9.2 out of 10. Really good. And I will be watching the rest of it. There's something that happens that. So, like I said, this show won me and then lost me. Where did it lose me? There
So these
is.
are spoilers.
Yeah, this is sort of a spoiler. I'm not going to explain the exact situation, but it's sort of a spoiler. So these guys are driving down the highway, and it's stormy, and the whole like town and the surrounding towns, the surrounding areas are advised to not be on the roads because it's very blizzardy, very stormy, very icy, very dangerous, not very demure,
Not very mindful.
not very mindful. So these guys are driving anyways, right? Because
Who is it?
they got stuff to do. It'll take too long to explain that. And a fish falls down from the sky.
What the heck?
And hits the car.
What the heck?
And they're like, oh? They both say. And then hundreds of fish start falling down from the sky. It's a fish storm.
What? That's a thing?
And the fish cause an accident, obviously. Like, these are, I don't know, like 10-pound freaking missiles raining down from the sky, and they come from way up there where it's real cold, so they're frozen, so, they land with some impact, and then the car, like, drives over a bunch of them and skids, and the road is icy, so causes a huge car wreck. And I was like, how in the shit is there a fish storm? What?
Yeah.
Because, like, previously, I want to say this is like halfway-ish through the season, but this first half was very grounded, felt very realistic, for the most part.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing that happens, and I'm like, this just is out of left field. I don't like this. Like, I'm not sure I like this season anymore.
Yeah.
And then, on Reddit, as you do, I'm reading, and apparently this is a real phenomenon that can happen.
What? How?
Yeah. So, like, what will happen is a tornado will pick up these fish somewhere like miles away from a river, let's say.
Huh.
And then we'll transport them
in the tornado.
And then once the tornado starts to die out, fish storm. It's raining fish. It can actually happen.
How is this something that we've never heard of?
But I also did read, like, I mean,
it was exaggerated.
It was like, I don't buy that this is happening at this time in winter, because, like, the
way the tornadoes work and all of that.
Yeah, and also, like, the lakes and the rivers are frozen 6 inches thick.
Yeah.
Like, they're not pulling out those fish. There is a part that happens earlier where people drill a hole down into a river, and so maybe you could say, well, that's where the fish came from, but it's not a big enough hole.
A 12-inch hole.
Yeah.
In diameter.
Well, it's bigger than that because you got to fit a body through it. It's a couple of feet.
Okay.
But, like, it's still not big enough to pick up hundreds of fish and transport them.
Yeah.
Anyways, crazy, right? But then I realized and remembered the Coen brothers, when they make movies, they seem to always have a sort of tinge of supernatural in them.
Mm.
Like, you've got No Country for Old Men, where the killer, he's sort of like this unnatural super force of nature that can't be stopped. And then Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like, that's crazy nuts stuff that happens there. And then you've got The Big Lebowski with the narrator that seems to know what's going on, and he's an actual real character within the story too. Like, there's some supernatural stuff going on. And I was like, you know what? This is totally keeping with
their theme.
Yeah, with the theme. Thinking. And then the villain, I'm pretty sure is the devil. I'm pretty sure he's meant to be the devil. He's got this, like, eerie ability to tempt people and lure them into wickedness. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of other, like, Christian motifs that happen throughout the series, and there's always wolves around him. He tells this riddle about why the human eye can see more shades of green than any other color, and it's so that we can identify snakes in the grass, predators. He's a predator. He's a snake. Mm-hmm. And then the point where I was like, okay, this guy's the devil, is he has this piece of pie, apple pie in a diner, and he's talking with Molly's dad, who owns the diner. And Molly's dad sees that this guy is not as nice as he portrays himself to be. He was a former cop. He picks up on there's some stuff wrong with this dude. He's off-putting. He's dangerous. And they're sort of having this the show is so sharply written. They're having this little verbal standoff, and then Lorne Malvo gets up and he says, "Thanks for the pie, friend. I haven't had pie that good since the Garden of Eden." And he does this little smile, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who was in the Garden of Eden? Let's count them out. We've got Adam. I don't think that's Adam. Yeah. Adam's dead by now. He's just a man. We've got Eve. I don't think he's Eve.
Yeah.
He's not a woman, and Eve should be dead by now. We have God. I don't think that's God. Who does that leave? The serpent, the tempter. That is Lorne Malvo. He is the devil. And then there's also a point where he intimidates this Jewish guy, and the Jewish guy says a word in Hebrew that means demon, or it means devil or serpent or something like that. So I think he's the devil. Anyway, he's really, really great villain. I think that's all the spoilery stuff I wanted to talk about, but this is super good. You should watch it.
Okay. Cool.
What's next?
Oh no.
I'm actually really excited to see that
new movie.
That Mormon one.
Yeah.
I watched like a little clip from it.
With Hugh Grant.
Mm-hmm. New movie out in
a week.
About a week. It's called Heretic, and it's about two Mormon sister missionaries that start teaching Hugh Grant, and he is a sinister man. I like seeing a scary Hugh Grant, old Hugh Grant.
He does a good job.
Yeah, he really does.
I don't know. Give us some suggestions. I think it's very enticing that I want to watch or whatever. Not super interested in any of it.
Well, Thanksgiving season is coming up, and we need to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So that's one.
Yeah.
But give us suggestions. Give us your best Thanksgiving movie suggestions.
Yeah.
Just not Haunting in Venice. We won't watch that again.
No, when is Green Book set? Is that at Christmas time at the ending?
That's Christmas.
Or is that Thanksgiving?
No, it's Christmas.
Okay.
Because of the snowstorm.
Oh, okay.
And they're having the Seven Fists.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great week, everybody. Bye.